Welcome to College Football Playoff Top 25, presented by Allstate.
For more than 2 months, teams have jockeyed for position to try to find a spot in this bracket. Some had moments at the front, only to step on a rake and break their own face. Others had bad moments, but fought their way back into the mix. Some have arrived with audacity and backing with money, and some have defiantly stayed in the fight no matter what the odds. There are others that are looking for the smallest of opportunities. And then there's yet another group that is separated with the rarest of traits, consistency. Upheaval, upsets have ruled. A combustible mix boils down to simply finding out where everybody starts the college football playoff race. And it's on, starting tonight.
Numbers are everywhere, all around us, leading us. More than digits in a sequence, they're symbols of success.
That's where we taking over.
What's my definition of success?
We got something to prove.
Listening to what your heart says.
What a grab! How about it? Scores! Can you believe it?
This is where the line will end and the final test begins for sole possession of the number one.
Yes, he did. What a play!
So many numbers in the world, so many teams vying for this prize.
I know I can change. We are not enough. We are not the same.
But who's counting? We are.
For the first time tonight, we'll know what the selection committee thinks of this bracket. It's the 12th year of the college football playoff, second year of the 12-team field, and 12 people making the determination of how these teams will be ranked, at least to start. All hats checked at the door. You recuse yourself if you have a connection to the various teams that are under consideration. Glad to have you with us. College football playoff top 25. We're going to show you the rankings in a matter of moments. We haven't seen them. You see them when we do. Reese Davis, Booger McFarland, Joey Galloway, and Greg McElroy. What are you looking forward to tonight, Boog?
Well, just to see the makeup of this committee. It's a new committee, and just to see what they're weighing. I think the biggest thing I always look for every year is how do you weigh the head-to-head. And we got two teams with a couple of losses, Miami and Notre Dame. They've played each other. Miami beat Notre Dame. One team is ascending. The other team is descending. How does this committee look at these two teams tonight? I think where they're ranked tonight gives us just a little bit of insight to that.
I want to see what happens at the top of the three undefeated teams, Ohio State, Indiana, and Texas A&M. They're going analytics or they're going eye test. When you look at these three teams, where they sit tonight, now again, this is the beginning, Greg. It doesn't matter.
There we go.
Settle down.
The first one.
Yeah.
But I do want to see what they do with those three teams because their resumes are so different.
I love Joey. Always, it'll take care of itself.
Yeah,
It always
nothing.
takes care of
always.
itself. Like the last 2 years, there's been no drama on selection
None.
day. The team I'm most intrigued by a mile is Georgia Tech. This year, the committee, albeit different individuals, also slightly different weight to the analytics and the criteria. You now have schedule strength metric, which is slightly different than what we've seen in the past. We also have record strength metric than what we've seen in the past. It's weighed more heavily. And the team that best reflects that is Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech's got a beautiful 8-1 record. They've looked really good offensively. They have a Heisman contender at quarterback. They've been able to run the ball. They've been able to throw the ball. Defensively, yeah, they had one hiccup, but their schedule strength, according to our metrics, is sitting at 84. Last year's committee really put a premium on win-loss. They would have been probably 7, 8, 9 last year. Where are they this year with the new weight on schedule strength and on record strength? That's what I'm fascinated to find out.
Right, and record strength is an official criteria for the selection committee for the first time, meaning how well did you play against your schedule. Now, you've seen this on ESPN.com, and committee members can look at it if they want, but it's an official metric now. Just a reminder of how things are. We've tweaked the field just a little bit, or not the field, but at least seeding the field. 5 highest-ranked conference champions all get spots in the field. Then after that, it will just be the highest-ranked teams. Now, when you start to fill out the bracket for the final rankings, the 4 highest ranked teams, regardless of whether they've won a conference, regardless of conference affiliation, will be seeded 1 through 4. Then beyond that, you'll have 8 teams playing in the first round. Those top 4 get the bye. The teams seeded 5 through 8 will get games on campus. We need to get more games on campus, but that's a different discussion for a different day. Then we'll play throughout the bracket. No reseeding or anything like that. Quarterfinals and semifinals in the traditional bowl sites, as you see there. Then the national championship game will be played in the greater Miami area on January 19th, and that's when they will decide it. So now let's look at the initial rankings from the College Football Playoff Selection Committee, brought to you by Allstate. Team checking in at number 25 after losing to Oklahoma. It's the Tennessee Volunteers. At number 24, ahead of Josh Heupel's team, the Pittsburgh Panthers. Now, Pittsburgh only has 1 loss in ACC play, explosive offense. They have 1 non-conference loss.
And they might be one of the most impactful teams remaining. They still play Notre Dame, they play at Georgia Tech, and they host Miami in their final 3 games. So this team, albeit at 24, has a huge impact on what this playoff might look like.
Number 23. The Washington Huskies. The Huskies only lost. Now, they didn't score much against either Ohio State or Michigan, but otherwise, Jed Fish's team has been rolling in explosive offense. Number 22. Eli Drinkwitz' Missouri Tigers, and a big opportunity coming for them when they play Texas A&M.
Without a doubt. And when you talk about a team that is going to play a factor, look no further than Missouri, from strength of record to teams they played to now the big tilt coming up against A&M.
Number 21. Michigan. Now, the Wolverines have probably lost their 2 most difficult games. They had the win over Washington, but they lost the game on the road to Oklahoma, lost the game on the road against USC.
And they will play Ohio State at the end of the season. As we talk about who could possibly be that 4th Big Ten team if they get 4, look at Michigan, look at USC, who I'm expecting to be coming up pretty soon.
That's a great point. USC and Washington are going to play later on, too. Let's look at number 20. At number 20, the Iowa Hawkeyes.
Very interesting.
They've improved over the course of the season. The offense, even with Mark Gronowski at quarterback, started very slowly, getting better. Shot at at Oregon, I should say, coming up for an opportunity.
And yet the wonder is the first team where you're like, all right, are they factoring in a good loss? Nobody played Indiana better than Iowa. So maybe they're factoring that in a little bit here, even though when you look at their best win against the 6-3 Minnesota team, everyone else is under 500. Bit of a reach here, but maybe they're factoring in how they played against Indiana.
Yeah, I had the loss to Iowa State early. The Cyclones have struggled since then. So Kirk Ferentz's team checking in at number 20, also reflecting some strength in the Big Ten so far that we've seen in these rankings. Number 19. Speaking of strength in the Big Ten, there they are, the Trojans of USC.
And there's USC, and they play Oregon later on in the season, so they'll have a chance to maybe make a statement there. They did beat Michigan also, so when you talk that 4th Big Ten team, they do have a win over Michigan.
Well, a lot of big games coming in the Big Ten for positioning and trying to make a finish. This is a bit of a fall. Boog, you mentioned this right off the top of the show. Miami descending. They lost the game to Louisville with all the turnovers, and they lost to SMU this past week.
And you can tell the committee's watching the game, because even though they're a 2-loss team and they have a couple of good wins, the fact that they are going down and descending, they're going to put them down. Even though they won the head-to-head against Notre Dame, Miami coming in at 18, a bit of a surprise.
Number 17. There it is, Greg. Georgia Tech, only the 1 loss to North Carolina State, ranked 17.
I think that's about right. I mean, I think this is a good football team. They had a really bad day. Now they get a chance to potentially bounce back. The schedule does strengthen down the stretch for Georgia Tech. Still have Georgia, still have a game against a ranked Pitt. Plenty of opportunity sitting in front for the Ramblin' Wreck.
Number 16. The Vanderbilt Commodores. After that loss to Texas, Vanderbilt's lost a couple of road games to Texas and to Alabama, but still in the fight at 7-2. Big hill to climb if they want to fight their way into the SEC championship game. Louisville has only a loss in overtime to Virginia. They've beaten Miami, and the Cardinals of Jeff Brom ranked number 15. How about number 14? And head-to-head is likely the difference here between Virginia and Louisville.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I think when you look at this committee, it's important to see where they're stacking these 2 teams at right now. To me, this is great insight when it comes to the head-to-head, and before we all lose our mind on the last Sunday.
Speak for yourself.
No.
Number 13. Here comes the Big 12, the Utah Utes. They've had a couple of impressive games, last 2 wins, one over Colorado and then Cincinnati on Saturday night. They put the hammer down against the Bearcats.
It looked really good. And when we talk about which conference is getting how many bids, ACC team sitting right behind Utah. Between Big 12 and ACC, a lot of questions going to be at the end, which conference will get a second bid, a second team in.
Okay, now a quick reminder as we see number 12 and then number 11, that you have the 5 highest ranked conference champions and the next 7 highest ranked teams. Typically that means that the cut line is going to be between 11 and 12. So with that in mind, let's see who's number 12. The Oklahoma Sooners. Sooners stumbled a bit after John Mateer was injured. Big win on the road against Tennessee. They've got a shot at Alabama coming up later. So the Sooners at 7-2, ranked 12th, sitting with an opportunity to earn their spot. Number 11, this is probably the cut line. The Texas Longhorns, and they get head-to-head, at least right now, with a similar resume.
And it's amazing, as bad as Texas has looked at times this season, they're right in position, and they have a lot of roadway left in front of them. If they can continue to ascend and continue to play, Texas could wind up getting in this playoff.
In 2 weeks, they go to Georgia.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's when we'll find out what Texas
roadway
really
in front
is
of
made of.
Yep.
Absolutely.
It's also not about style points either, because Texas is getting by very narrow margins. Mississippi State and Kentucky, hey, just win, baby. At least it appears this way according to the committee.
Well, I mean, the whole thing is if you start trying to put this list together, and if you're sitting in that room, it's kind of, you hold your nose and it's kind of where they wind up, a little bit. But now an opportunity to finish strong. There's no rule against improving over the course of the season. Who's number 10? Fighting Irish of Notre Dame. 2 losses, first 2 games of the season. One on the literal last play of the game, the other on the virtual last play of the game after missing an extra point, and they're getting some respect because of how they've played and probably how tight those losses.
And the way they look now, they look like a dominant football team running the ball.
BC notwithstanding Saturday. Everybody's entitled to one.
Everybody is entitled to one.
Yeah.
And if you have one close game, that doesn't bother me, but Notre Dame's an important team. It's going to be important because later on as we talk Texas A&M, and where they're ranked, that's on their resume.
I think visible improvement on one particular side of the ball. What was their biggest challenge early in the year? Defensively, the secondary was struggling. They were banged up. They had injuries. They can probably point to, well, hey, they were out some guys. They didn't know who they were. New DC, and now all those players and coaches that are in the room are saying, look how they're playing now 8 games into this, 8 games later. They're a completely different unit on that side of the ball.
And just like last year, they've got reinforcements coming, we hope, it seems, from injury on the offensive line, too.
Yes.
Number 9. The Oregon Ducks. Now, this is a team I was really interested to see because while they had the loss to Indiana and a great game in Eugene, not a lot of other things on their resume.
Overtime against Penn State, which at the time looked like a pretty good win.
But now it doesn't.
Since then, it does not look great. They went to overtime with Penn State.
I think everybody acknowledges the firepower. There's no one that denies the ceiling that Oregon has on their best day. We saw it against Rutgers. But right now, their best wins against a 5-3 Northwestern team. And that's no disrespect to the Wildcats. It's just they haven't had a chance to really prove it yet, albeit having lost to Indiana and the way things went now for Penn State.
Well, one thing I do want to point out, while they don't have a big resume win, if you look at ESPN's strength of schedule, it's still top 40. It's not like it's, bottom of the country.
Yeah.
Or anything.
I understand it's top 40, but they don't, to your point, Greg, they've had an opportunity to show us. You can't control who's on the schedule.
No, you
just
can't.
beat who's on your schedule and beat them by a big margin, and they haven't been able to do that.
And things get much tougher for them down the stretch. Washington's on the schedule, SC's on the schedule. You got Iowa this week. A lot still coming up for them.
Let's go to number 8. Texas Tech. Only the one loss against Arizona State. Joey McGuire's team and that great defense at number 8. Great position. Huge game coming up with BYU. College Game Day will be there. And BYU is sitting there at number 7. Had a little bit of a guess. Promise I haven't seen it. Felt like the right spot for the Cougars. Undefeated there. And
I think we all expected.
I think we're all
played 8 this weekend.
The only blemish on BYU's resume is the quarterback's wearing 47. That should be a number that sacks quarterbacks, not one that is a quarterback.
I don't know. Michael Irvin rocked it pretty good there for a while.
There's a wide receiver.
But, I'm giving Pollock some love there. Number 6, Ole Miss is 8-1. Lane Kiffin, the object of many an affection in the coaching carousel. His team's ranked 6th.
And I think if there's a such thing as a good loss, I think we look at Ole Miss's loss at Georgia, the way they played in that game, went head-to-head with Georgia. If you watch that game, you give Ole Miss credit for that game, even though they lost the game.
Yeah, the week after they went to the wire with Washington State. It was like, what are they doing?
I think the next two are going to be pretty predictable and easy, and probably some head-to-head as we go to number 5. It's going to be the top 3 that's interesting. Georgia's 5, only lost to Alabama. Is Alabama 4? I assume they are? They are. So Alabama is number 4, so that leaves Ohio State, Indiana, Texas A&M, 1, 2, 3. We talked about that. Joey has an idea, but it is A&M, Joey, who you said you'd have number 1. A&M as at number 3.
That is surprising to me because of the analytics, because of the record strength, because of the schedule strength. Texas A&M is ranked in both those metrics above Ohio State and above Indiana. I'm surprised that they're at number 3.
And to your point, and we talked about this a lot, Reese, they may have the best win in the sport going on the road in South Bend, beating that Notre Dame team, who we see where they are now.
Let's look at the top 2 now, with A&M being number 3. And obviously, there's still games to play and maneuvering to do. And we are likely on target for an Ohio State-Indiana Big Ten championship game, barring some pretty significant upset the rest of the way. Hoosier schedule is very, very favorable. And Ohio State, of course, has Michigan. They don't play each other in the regular season. So there's one thing missing from the top 25 if you look at the criteria for establishing the bracket. It's the 5 highest-ranked conference champions. Only 4 conferences represented in that top 25. So what the committee does, they continue ranking until they get to a team with the 5th highest-ranked team from a conference to give you an idea of who would make it into the bracket. That's how they do it on Selection Day. So let's start to put together the bracket right now and look and see exactly how all of this would unfold if it were that way right now. So it would be, as you see on the left with the CFP rankings, it would be the Memphis Tigers. They're not in the top 25, but they are at the moment the highest ranked among the teams in the group of 5. Teams with the byes will be the top 4 ranked teams. Told you earlier, does not matter what conference you're in, does not matter if you are a conference champion. Obviously, that will help you get there on Selection Day, but right now, it's Ohio State, Indiana, Texas A&M, and Alabama. So the teams that would have the home games in Athens, home game in Lubbock, Oxford, and Provo. And you see Georgia's 5, Ole Miss 6, BYU 7, Texas Tech 8. So that would mean that Georgia would play Memphis. It would be the 5th highest ranked conference champion to make the field. So despite the fact that the Tigers are not ranked officially, they would be the 12th seed. And you see the other matchups, Oregon and Texas Tech, Tyler Shuck Bowl, so to speak, Virginia and Ole Miss, and Notre Dame and BYU. That's how it would stop for right now. So what jumped out at you? What was... They seem to honor head-to-head if they thought the teams were comparable. Yeah. And to your point, they didn't seem to think Miami and Notre Dame at this point in the season were comparable.
I'm baffled right now.
Why?
Because I actually really agree with the rankings. I mean, I don't have a huge issue outside of maybe a team or two that might be slightly too high, too low. This rankings makes sense. And this is the first time I feel like in an initial ranking where it's like, all right, I understand why they did that. That makes sense to me. They're putting premiums on how a team's looked, how consistent they've played. They are penalizing teams that haven't played anybody just yet or don't have a great win, a la Oregon, who, by the way, looks great, but they haven't played enough people yet to warrant a higher ranking. They're sitting 3 spots behind a team that I was curious to see who they'd be measured up against in Ole Miss. I just think they did a great job this week, and I'm flabbergasted by it. So tip the cap to the committee.
So to your point about teams that hadn't played anybody, who's Ohio State's best win?
Well, Texas, who's ranked 10th.
Illinois is not bad.
Yeah, I truly understand it. To Joey's point, I think Texas A&M's resume, the way they look, what they've done, deserves to be number 1. And I think when you look at Indiana going on the road to outs and beating Oregon, they even had an opportunity. I would have put them number 1. I don't know if I'd put Ohio State at number 1 based on what they've done. Now, they still have road in front of them. But to Joey's point, Indiana and Texas A&M, I think they've done more so far.
Okay, let me ask you this, though. Who do you think's better?
So now here's the thing about that question.
That carries some weight, too.
Here's the thing about that question. And that's why I wanted to see this ranking, because this tells me that they're going a lot on eye test here. Mm-hmm. Because if we're going on rankings and analytics, Texas A&M is best analytically over Indiana and Ohio State, and they're sitting at 3. So they're going a lot off of eye test. And when you start telling me we're going off eye test, Reese, now all of a sudden we have no idea where this thing is going, because when you talk resume, you talk about who's their best win.
But
The Texas team we saw this weekend play Vandy. That was their best game. They looked like the Texas team
three quarters.
we expected to see.
Right.
They weren't that team early on in the season.
Yeah.
They weren't for a large part of that. So when you say who's their best win, a Texas team that didn't look great early. This surprises me because it's a lot of eye test, and
Fair
I
enough.
don't trust eye test as much as I trust
I love A&M. I think
analytics.
A&M's a really good football team. They have win right now against one current top 25 football team in Notre Dame, which, by the way, is a great win, especially up there. I mean, goodness gracious, especially with Notre Dame having lost the first game coming off a bye. Like, you get extra points for that. But Ohio State, let's not forget that they also went to Washington and shut Washington down to give them their first loss of the season. So we cannot remove that.
All
from
of
the
that is
equation
baked
as well.
into the analytics.
And I also think if we're going exclusively on eye test, who's the team I'd least like to play? It's Indiana right now. I think Indiana right now, offensively
Everything you
and
said, though,
defensively,
is baked into the analytics that still has
To an
Texas
extent.
A&M above both those teams.
Here's one thing that I let slip by just a little bit. The cut line would be a little bit different right now because you have the 5 highest ranked conference champions got fixated on the Memphis angle of it. Virginia would actually be in the field as the 4th highest ranked conference champion because they at the moment are the highest ranked team from the ACC. So you'd move the cut line up another spot.
And another thing that we can look at here with what happened right now in the ACC with Georgia Tech losing and Miami losing, it's safe to assume they have their work cut out for them to get 2 teams in.
Yeah.
I think that
Sure
is
seems that
likely
way.
not happening. Now, the Big 12, there's some legitimate wiggle room there because you still have Utah that's lingering. You still have Texas Tech and BYU, which will settle itself this weekend potentially. I mean, there's some wiggle room in the Big 12 to get 2 in.
Or more, because you have Texas and Oklahoma,
Correct.
too, sitting there about to play Georgia and Alabama, so they could hurt their causes, too. We'll talk a little bit more about this with Mack Rhoades, who is the new chair of the College Football Playoff Selection Committee. He's been on the committee before. Athletic Director at Baylor will join us in just a little bit to talk about some of these decisions. And there's Mack right now. We'll talk a little bit about the enhanced metrics, how that played a role and how they evaluated it. And we'll have him once again explain to Joey that it's all part of it. It's not
please.
just metric or just eye test. It's a mix. That's why we have the committee, Joey.
College Football Playoff Top 25 is presented by Allstate. You're in good hands. And in part by Mercedes-Benz.
Look at me go.
Welcome back to College Football Playoff Top 25, presented by Allstate.
First rankings are out. This is the projected 12-team bracket. There are a couple of little things to note here for the last 2 teams in the field. Memphis is not in the top 25. They would be seeded 12th if this would be the way that it ends, by virtue of the fact that they would be the 5th highest ranked conference champion. And Virginia wouldn't be in the cut line as an at-large. Virginia is number 14, but they would make the field because they would be the 4th highest ranked conference champion. But a lot more to change over the course of time. Of course, as the 12-team playoff continues to unfold and the rankings come week to week, Mack Rhoades, who is the chair of the College Football Playoff Selection Committee, joined us now. Mack, we talked a little bit earlier, right before the show, about the new enhanced metrics that the committee is using, the difference in the way strength of schedule is evaluated, and for the first time, the metric you are calling record strength. How well did you play against your schedule? Given those metrics, who did that have the biggest impact on in terms of evaluation, the new enhanced version of the metrics?
Well, one, great to be with you, Reese, and Booger and Greg and Joey. And Greg, by the way, I agree completely with you. But to your question, Reese, for example, it came up when we talked about Oregon. And Oregon, when you look at them in the top 10, are lowest ranked in terms of record strength. And so the committee had a lot of conversation, rigorous debate, conversation about, Oregon as a team. And, we're blessed to have 3 coaches in the room and looking at the tape. And when you looked at Oregon, great players at the skill position. felt that they're really, really good up front, both sides of the ball. Their one loss is to our number 2 ranked team, Indiana. And so, again, when we looked and evaluated Oregon, we really looked, in terms of just quality of team and how they looked on film.
Okay, so Oregon's only loss is to Indiana. So let's talk a little bit about the 3 highest ranked teams. Joey's pointed out many of the metrics, assuming they mirror what was in the room, would favor Texas A&M. I think all of us who watched Ohio State and Indiana play, it's hard to argue with them. How did the metrics weigh against the football judgment in the room of watching those 2 teams from the Big Ten play?
Yeah, we had, robust discussion about the 3 of them. Obviously, all 3 undefeated. We had great discussion about them on Monday. We certainly came back today. We really felt like the committee that Ohio State and Indiana were close. When you looked at the statistical data, both offensively and defensively, 2 teams, both in the top 5 offensively, 2 teams, both in the top 5 defensively, both with really good wins. Ohio State, a win against Washington and certainly against Texas. Indiana, a win against Oregon and Iowa. But when we again looked at tape, we looked at metrics. We felt like Ohio State a little bit better up front on the offensive line, and we thought they were better defensively. And then when we looked at statistics and we included Texas A&M as part of the discussion. Again, we just felt like the separator there was defensively, and that those 2 teams, both Ohio State and Indiana, were better defensively. So you're talking about 3 great teams, 3 deserving teams, and we really had, again, great discussion, great debate about the 3.
You've got a handful of 1-loss teams ranked above an undefeated BYU. You have some 2-loss teams ranked ahead of 1-loss teams. How cognizant is the discussion in the room at sort of getting away from what has really been part of the DNA of evaluating college football teams for more than a century of, well, they're undefeated. Well, they have fewer losses. Everybody has a tough time playing the schedule. How cognizant is the committee of not just counting losses?
Yeah, I think it's always part of the discussion when we're talking about wins and losses. That's extremely important. But again, we have a variety of tools at our disposal, and so not one is weighted more than the other. We're sitting here and we're looking at head-to-head. We're looking at common opponent. We're looking at schedule strength. We're looking at record strength. We're looking at all of the analytics, and so we truly try to look at each team on its own and its body of work. And I think that's why we wait as a committee, CFP, to begin our rankings, at this point in time of the year, where we've got a body of work that we can look at for each of the teams.
Mac, we appreciate your time. We'll do it next week. I'm sure everything will go just as predicted, and this will be easy for you next week. We appreciate it, man.
Thank you all.
All right, that is Mac Rhodes. He is the new chair of the College Football Playoff Selection Committee. This is what the 12-team bracket would look like if this were Selection Day, but it most certainly is not. So what about some of the issues that have been raised? What about a multi-bid league from the ACC? Are those hopes gone? Heather Dinich will join us momentarily to talk about her takeaways from these initial rankings. Don't forget. No, I'm sorry. It's my Dick Vitale impression. The great Dick Vitale with the Dick Vitale Invitational, Texas and Duke. Coming up next on ESPN. There's Dickie V, our friend. He'll be on the call tonight along with Jay Billis. And I think Dan Schulman's there too, so we'll look forward to hearing those guys. Chick-fil-A move on the field. Boy, Jeremiah Love put some moves on Indiana in the playoff last year. He's put moves on USC in the past, and he put a long running move on Boston College on Saturday. Notre Dame sort of struggled in that game, but we said earlier, everybody's entitled to one. Irish had theirs on Saturday. Notre Dame ranked number 10. They would be on the road at BYU. Heather Dinich is here, does an amazing job covering the college football playoff. This is a big deal with the ACC, all of them being outside the top 12.
It's a huge deal, and if you look at this, because of the seeding change, Virginia and BYU, two projected conference champions, because of the seeding change, can now be eliminated in the first round. They no longer get that bye. That's important. And I think one of the other things that people need to notice, in regards to the ACC, there are 3 Big 12 teams ranked ahead of the ACC's first team. So that shows the conference pecking order. But, Reese, one other thing that I would point out here is how deep the field is this year. Because we get focused on these top 12, you got to go down to USC, to Michigan, to Pitt, because any team that has a chance to win its conference is still in the conversation. And when you go down to USC, guess where they're going? They're going to go to Oregon. You know how quickly you can flip the script on that narrative in the Big Ten? Michigan can beat the committee's #1 team. Finish 10-2. Then what are you going to do?
Well, that's never happened. They would beat Ohio State, knock them off. I mean, and right now, too, if that doesn't happen, you have a potential 1-2 game in the Big Ten championship game, and maybe you're still 1-2 at the end of that if that were to happen. But a long way to go. I mean, Georgia's got a snake pit game this week against Mississippi State.
This could be a sneaky week.
Yeah,
and look, Notre Dame is 1 loss away from opening a hole for somebody else to jump out. Hey, Pitt, they're your spoiler.
Maybe, but you know what? You go eye test, I'm still saying they're top 5.
Ooh.
I believe in the Irish. Just going to die on the hill, Heather. Great job, as always. Best in the Big 12. We'll find out a little bit more. Both BYU and Texas Tech in the field. They'll go head-to-head in Lubbock on Saturday. College Game Day will be there for that. They're already camping out in Lubbock. BYU and Texas Tech. I'm sure former Texas Tech quarterback commit Greg McElroy will be locked in on that game.
Tortillas for everyone.
Well, tortillas during game day, early start of the show. Please do not take them inside the stadium. You can't take the Verbo Team Spotlight team and wreck them with a 15-yard penalty by throwing tortillas out there.
Well done.
So just make sure that we do them early in the show, and then we don't take them inside the stadium.
Gotcha.
That's all we're going after. Texas Tech, 8-1. FPI, which is forward-looking measure, has them ranked 11th. BYU, still undefeated. Bear Bachmeier and company have pulled out some tight games to their credit. This is a hard-nosed, physical football team. The freshman just keeps getting better and better. Noon Eastern time, 11 in beautiful downtown Lubbock for BYU and Texas Tech. A Big 12 showdown with huge playoff implications, but maybe both end up getting in the playoff. What about those teams sitting on the bubble that Heather mentioned that could turn things upside down?
This is College Football Playoff Top 25, presented by Allstate. College Football Playoff Top 25 is presented by Allstate. You're in good hands.
Moments away from the Dick Vitale Invitational, Texas and Duke. Dickie V with Jay Billis, and I want to correct myself. It's Dave O'Brien. Dave, apologies for saying Dan Schulman, because your night's going to be difficult enough working with Dickie V and Billis. I don't want to make it any worse. Bubble teams that Heather talked about, a lot of teams can turn it upside down. Anybody that you really believe in coming down the stretch?
Pitt. I think Pitt's very real. You got a freshman quarterback. He's only going to get better from this point forward. Don't get me wrong. I don't like their chances against Notre Dame, but I don't like many teams' chances against Notre Dame right now. So Pitt, to me, right now, with what's remaining on the schedule, they can be the biggest spoiler in college football this year, whether they make it to the ACC title game or not.
I think the Big Ten is going to get real interesting with Iowa playing Oregon. USC gets a shot at Oregon later on, and Michigan gets a shot at Ohio State. If they can knock off number one, that might be the fourth Big Ten team into this conversation, which would then affect ACC, Big 12, who gets another bid.
And you talk about teams that have a lot of road left in front of them. How about Oklahoma? I mean, you got Bama, Missouri, LSU left in front of them. You run the table with that. Oklahoma's getting in there based on that gauntlet of schedule that they were to go through.
Did you count LSU in the gauntlet?
Yeah. I mean,
well, when you think about Oklahoma, though,
Perceived.
we saw Iowa get somewhat rewarded, we're assuming.
Correct.
Based on a close loss to Indiana. So let's say Oklahoma loses close to, say, Bama in Tuscaloosa. Is that enough to maybe keep them in the mix, even as a 3-loss team?
Oklahoma right now at number 12, 35% chance to make the playoff, according to the playoff predictor. Indiana and Ohio State at 99%. You know, the scenario you brought up with Michigan and Ohio State, if they win, it would put Michigan in the Big Ten championship game because one of the Wolverines' losses is a non-conference loss.
I like it. I love it.
I'm just saying.
When Reese gets that smile when he's saying
that's when you know he's got something. He's been saving a little something.
He got a little something for you. Hey, listen, if he's going to count LSU in the gauntlet, then all bets are off.
Wow. Perceived gauntlet.
December 7th is when we'll have the final rankings. Next edition come out next week. Nick Vitale Invitational. Now take it away, Dave O'Brien.